Are you being blunt, or are you speaking from a lack of emotional intelligence and emotional regulation? I've heard many people describe themselves as blunt. And when the situation allows, I like to be curious and ask them like what blunt means to them or what that looks like in their behavior. Because sometimes when people say that, they mean that they are very direct, that they like to keep it real and they don't like to sugarcoat things and they just say what's on their mind unfiltered. And while that can be really helpful because clear is kind, and when we are being indirect or we are being passive, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment, for miscommunications, for misunderstandings, and unintentional ruptures. So being clear and being direct is a way that we can be loving to ourselves and others. And, I like an and. Sometimes people think they are being blunt, but they're really being harsh under the guise of authenticity or having no filter. But unfiltered isn't always better. Now, filter doesn't mean that you need to be scripted or polished or that you need to rehearse every conversation before you have it. But filter does mean that you want to be aware of the nuance that exists in communication, especially interpersonal or relational communication. Because when you are unfiltered, without compassion, without emotional intelligence, without self regulation, or emotional regulation, you can come off very harshly. You can come off abrupt, and that whatever the message is that you're trying to convey gets lost in the way that you presented it. This is not tone policing, that is something else. It is recognizing that when you are interacting in a relational capacity, that you do have some responsibility to bear on the relationship dynamic. And when you show up or you respond harshly, when you think you're being direct, that can affect the emotional safety and it can reflect a lack of emotional awareness, that it is not taking into account the emotional sensitivity of the person that you're speaking to or even the emotional capacity the person has to receive the message that you're trying to give them. Now, being direct can reflect self-trust and a groundedness and sense of self, that you understand your thoughts, your feelings, and that you feel comfortable and confident in those thoughts and feelings to be able to share them with other people, and that you are going to share them in a way that demonstrates self-respect and is free of any silencing, self-sacrificing, or shrinking. However, when we are being direct with people that we care about, it's important for us to recognize how our words impact them, because if we aren't paying attention to how our words are going to impact them, then we might get ourselves in a situation where now we're going to be defensive. When the person does say, ouch, that hurt the way you said that, and you're like, well, that wasn't my intent, I'm sorry that you took it that way. Now that's defensiveness, because you're focusing on your intent to be authentic or honest and not the impact of the harshness of your words. So if there's something that you have to say, by all means, be honest, be transparent, be vulnerable, but don't deflect the emotional responsibility of your words onto someone else. Make sure that you are aware of what it is that you're thinking and you're feeling before you say them. That's not filtering. That is self-awareness. That is self-regulation. That is being emotionally intelligent and relationally focused in your interactions. So yeah, you may be thinking you're blunt, but is it reflecting something else about you?